Welcome to the Elevated Edge podcast. My name is Naeem, and for today's episode, we have on the owner of MinerX Academy, Zach Hall. The most valuable part he breaks down is the conviction and the mindset shift needed to hit your next level. I've seen it personally, sales reps in the industry being top producers, but not being able to become top leaders. He gives the perspective shift to achieve the next level. Let's get straight to it. Zach, you've worked with a lot of high performing reps in your career. What are some of the key mindset shifts that separate someone stuck at 100K from someone consistently doing over $300,000 in door to door?
Yeah, that's a heck of a question. Great place to start. And I wish I wish it were as simple as like this one gets it every time. The fact is, Naeem, like we all have different backgrounds, we all have different ideas and like belief systems. And I mean that is part of the work is finding the one that will open you up or allow you to break through to a new level. I have found I have found that there are like 9 core pillars of belief, like for an architecture of success, and as what I call it, architecture of success belief systems for salespeople to have. And it's usually one of those 9 that create like significant breakthroughs in people. So I'll share the 9. Should I share the 9?
Yeah, we want to hear the 9. Let's break it down.
All right, so I think of it like building a building. So it's the architecture of success or freedom in sales. At the bottom level, you'll have belief systems about sales itself as a profession. It's crazy the number of people who get into sales thinking it's, one thing and have beliefs that don't actually support their ability to perform in sales. The next would be salespeople. A good tell on that is watch when someone approaches a sales attempt on you. What feeling do you get? That's going to reveal how you think about salespeople most of the time, which you imagine you're going to work against yourself most of the time if it's like a negative or limiting feeling. And then the core, like I call this the cornerstone, is thoughts and belief systems about yourself. Ultimately, you are the biggest driver. So usually all roads lead back to like what you think about you, how you think about you, the way you speak to you as one of the primary drivers. If there was one, that would be it. But that's like the foundation. You got to crack in any one of those belief systems, you will be limited for sure.
Yeah, and I really like that because the first one you're kind of talking about like the aspect of conviction and really knowing what you're doing is actually going to really like positively affect, the potential consumer of it. What you're doing has a greater impact. Obviously, when you talk about the connotation of number 2, I've had door to door guys knock my own door at my house. And to be honest, like if I just don't like the vibe that they're giving off, like I'm probably the easiest sale out there. But if they don't really, or if they're not someone that I feel like I could aspire to be like, I'm not going to buy from them.
Yeah, but you open. You
Mhm.
open, right?
Yeah.
Just saw this by Daniel Garcia, like huge, he's very passionate when he speaks, right? And he was like, open shop, open shop. I don't know if you've seen that yet.
No, I haven't.
It is shocking the number of sales professionals who are on social media with private accounts. Like that doesn't make sense to me. Why would you make it hard for someone to contact you or figure it out what it is you do and what impact and value you might bring for the world, right? Like that tells me that you have a closed off mindset towards the very profession that you engage in daily. That's not going to fly. You have to have an open shop, allow people to approach you and sell their stuff if you expect people to be open for you. It just goes both ways. So those would be our core beliefs for a foundation for success. And then the building up, I call it market, product, and company. So if the belief systems are off on your product, you talked about conviction, you got to believe the impact you're making with the thing that you sell. The market itself, the area for door-to-door reps, like all of that stuff is market. And then the company that, you go to work with, you go to work for, those 3 are like our pillars building us up. And then the ceiling is set in the belief systems of money, time, and success and failure, what you think about success and failure. Those 9 belief systems are where I typically work and find breakthroughs for people that within a month just completely reverse their trajectory.
Yeah, and I think this is really, really interesting. Because I feel like, you might read a sales book or just see like little reels and stuff. And I feel like there's always little tidbits about kind of all these different sections when it regards to sales. So basically, just to recap, the first three really are the most baseline ones, and then from that, basically as a sales rep, you build off of that. What do you feel like are some of the key things that someone really should honestly be worried about if they're going to continue to level up that nine objects?
Yeah, it would be like, stay humble, I would say. Like if you reach a point where you hear yourself thinking, you can catch yourself thinking, I've got it figured out. Like I'm good. That is a slippery slope that often leads people to show up in a way where they coast, they settle, and they set a ceiling on themselves. You never have it all figured out. In fact, the more I know, the more I come to know I don't know, right? And so checking that ego at the side, like being confident and convicted in terms of growth, but what drives that is the humility in knowing that there's more for you to learn, more people to learn from, and more perspective to gain that's going to really help you keep growing. If you think you got to figure it out, you put a ceiling on your growth and the growth of those you lead.
Yeah, that's really good, and I agree 100%. So, what would you say that most leaders mistake for motivation, and that's actually just like short term hype?
Mm, well, how do you mean? Just make sure I understand.
So, obviously, when you look at it, like leaders obviously want to be able to like positively influence people and really have like unlock different levels in them.
Okay.
A lot of people get caught up in the aspect of just like motivation because motivation is really short term.
Yeah.
So what are some things that are mistaken as like maybe a long term thing that's going to be actually beneficial, but really it's just a short term hype?
Yeah, I would say like the idea like noise itself, right? Like you just getting loud. I remember I was in a like a year-end conference one time with a pretty good robust sales organization, and they had a guy come and speak, and he talked about like a change of identity, and kind of walked everyone through like building a new identity within themselves, and he used Kobe and like the Black Mamba, if you know that story, like how he became the Black Mamba. Um, and everyone like that I could see in that audience when he said, "Okay, you're going to unlock this new personality, you're going to unlock this identity, and then show it on the count of three," right? And what do you think everyone did?
Just got super loud hype,
So much noise.
just
It was like,
typical.
oh, like everyone was yelling, like they were going to like run through walls and everything, because that's what motivation does, right?
Hmm.
But how many people actually left changed? You could tell from results on the coming months, like no one really changed who they were. They didn't like, and so I would say that noise actually is a signal, just noise for itself, expressing yourself like just loudly, like actions speak louder than words. If I'm a leader and I'm just watching someone get loud and get loud and get loud, like I'm going to lean in and see, okay, are they backing that up with their effort, with their action? Coincidentally, in that conference, everyone yelled. I didn't say a word. Like I went totally calm in that moment.
Almost like pushed you away from that environment because you just kind of knew like it was almost inorganic in a way.
Well, I don't know. To me, the person in sales, especially who wins, like not just sells a deal, but like gets long term business, gets deals done for real, that person's calm under pressure, not stoked. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think that really goes well back to kind of like our sports days. In high school, I always used to like want to take like pre-workout before a game, and then for some reason I would cramp. And then you're like, well, that was like a limiting factor by me trying to like get hype, listen to like some Chief Keef, for example,
Mm.
when I could have just been like in my actual thoughts, like replaying like potential plays in my head before they happen, and just like be, sitting still, really just calm before the actual storm came.
There you go. Because ultimately, what separates great athletes is the same thing that separates great salespeople. It's the ability to think clearly in a pressure situation. It's the ability to stay calm and make the best decision possible in the heat of a moment, in the heat of exchange and negotiation. And stoke and like all this hype and noise, it usually prevents people from acting as their best self. And so that is the warning signal, I guess, to your question I would look out for. Is it just noise or is there a strong signal coming through?
Yeah, that's really, really powerful. So then off of that, like what's a belief about mindset that like not only sales industry, but also athletes really push? And from that, like what are some of like the key positive ones and then the ones that just like aren't really that good
So a belief that isn't as good as we,
about mindset?
yeah.
Yep.
I would say honestly, something I hear a ton, right, is that sales is just a numbers game, and it sounds good, and there is some truth to it, but I think that is a belief or an overarching like message being spelled out by leaders that actually damages. Like it's not playing the whole picture. And what I mean by that is like if it was just a numbers game, would there be any hope for improvement? Right? Like if it's just numbers, then there's no aim to improve, right? There's no reason to try to get better at the thing. And the fact is you don't get paid based on how many people you talk to, right? Like that's a factor, but it's not how you get paid. I know people who have cranked out hundreds of doors a week getting out earned by people who talk to maybe 40, 50 people in a week. So just as saying it's a numbers game kind of misses the mark on that, and that we have to strive for improvement. There is skill. It is a performance-based industry, so getting better matters. But also, and here's the more dangerous thing that I think is often overlooked, is that just calling it a numbers game pulls attention away from the actual game that it is. And that is an energy game.
Okay. So let's dive into that. Like, you mean energy by like, what you're giving off? Like kind of detail that out for us.
Yeah, well, have you ever had a day where, I mean, you're a disciplined individual, right? Athlete, you trained really hard. Like, have you ever had a day where you went out and you did a ton of work? Like, you knocked a ton of doors, you made a ton of sales calls, and like the results just didn't come.
Yes.
And then you've had days where maybe you didn't work a ton, but like the results were plentiful.
You just couldn't miss. Yeah.
Good miss. The energy behind the action is as important as the action itself. So if I knock a door with despair, desperation, neediness, scarcity, the energy behind that activity, although the activity is good, the energy behind that activity is scarce, and it will cause me to act differently with my prospects than if I'm knocking a door with expectation, with conviction, with assurance, right? Like the results I'll get behind those numbers is completely different. And so when leaders say, hey, it's just a numbers game, it's just a numbers game. Yeah, but every number has to be done with the same energy. Because if half of my doors in a day were knocked with fatigue and like dread, and the other half were knocked with expectation and joy, like I'm going to get different results. They're not going to be playing out towards just some, average.
And going off of that, I think there's really two main things. What you're talking about is like intentionality, like being where your feet are. Obviously, there's the aspect of everyone has something in their life going on right now. Whether it's like problems at home, obviously maybe your bank account's low, like family issues, whatever. It could literally be whatever situation. But if you let that affect you while you're out in the actual field, then that's going to spew off of you and people are going to naturally feel that. So that's why it's like you have to do a really good job at being able to separate home versus the when you're out in the field, just so you can really maximize the opportunity, because you might only have 20, 30, 40 conversations that day, but you have to bring it every time, like you're saying, because you could knock 1,000 doors, but if your energy's low and you don't have good vibrations within you, then obviously you're not going to have as much success as someone that brings it.
Good point. And when we say energy too, just to clarify for your audience, like we're not just talking about like energy level, like I like what you said, good vibrations, right? It's that I'm vibrating with assurance, with conviction. Like I have that vibration emanating out my body because of where my head is, because of what I'm focused on, versus I have scarcity, desperation, despair vibrating off of my body. Those conversations, even if you say the same words, because I've lived this personally, even if you say the same words, you'll get completely different results from it.
And on top of that, I also think the number one thing that happens with that, even your no's are super respectful because you know you have the insurance within you that obviously you're like you have the conviction and people will naturally feel that. And even if it's an area that's been saturated, you're a little bit different than those people that have also came by and they're going to see that you're the expert ultimately. So you can have some real, genuine, deep conversations on like, what is actually holding them back from actually looking at your product, for example?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, way to break that down, I guess. So, at the highest level, what daily mental standards or habits do elite reps and athletes refuse to compromise on?
You can build the body, you can build all the different stuff. You can improve skill set wise, but again, everything is energy. And if I'm very appreciative, like if gratitude rules my state of being, it's very you're not going to feel desperate, you're not going to feel doubt, despair, like all those things if gratitude rules it. So, number 1, I want to feel abundant when I go to work, especially when I eat what I kill. I want to like express that abundance. I've got to recognize all of the amazing things that is my life, right? Like, so the habits around increasing the gratitude I have, huge. And then to combat that, or not combat, to combine with that is the habits around recognizing my growth, how I have improved, how far I have come, the gains I have made, the things that are happening for me. One of my favorite quotes, like I don't know if it's Ed Milet or Tony Robbins, but life doesn't happen to you, it happens for you. That belief system right there comes by training your brain to recognize growth, gain, and progress. Once you recognize that there's progress in everything, then you realize, oh, I tore my ACL for my benefit. Oh, that person I had 14 failed credits for my benefit. You start recognizing the growth that it turns within you, and like that habit makes you an unstoppable individual.
And really, what you're saying is it's all about the mind shift perspective, and then it's the opportunity to be able to go out and like make that next step in your life. So, I kind of want to dive a little bit deeper. Like, if we could give the audience right now, like one tactical thing that they could really do to have gratitude and growth, like, what would you say that they could really focus on if they were to do it today?
Well, if it's a habit of building gratitude or growth, I think writing and reflection is huge and really overlooked this in these day and age, like with how social media and like technological everything is. Actually having a journal and like writing out how you've progressed, how you've gained, everything that's working in your benefit, in your favor. So I do one of two things. One, my planning system, like the way that I plan on a weekly basis, engages uh, opportunity to recognize growth at the end of my week, at the end of my whatever time frame I'm planning on. Like I prompt myself to look at how I've progressed that very week. But even as something as simple as like every day you wake up, the very first thing you do, you go to a notebook and you talk about how grateful you are. You write down like, hey, this is what's happened and this is why I'm grateful. Like I'm breathing again, or like my body works properly and I didn't wake up pained today. Like my back doesn't hurt. Like whatever it is, the smallest things are the biggest thing. I'm grateful for the appointments I have today. I'm grateful for the clients that I'll meet, even if you haven't met them yet. That daily practice of writing down something to be grateful for and a way that you've grown or progressed towards your goals, I think is almost unmatched.
Yeah. And then where would you say the line is where mindset is no longer the issue and it's actually a skill gap or leadership failure?
I like this question. There's never a line where mindset isn't first. like, I mean, there's times where like leadership is at fault, but it's because of the mindset of the leader. Like there's a time where skill is an issue, but it's because the mindset isn't developing the skill. Right? Like there's never a line where like the way you have to look at that is for it to be a leadership fault, right? Then it is a behavior of the leader. Would you agree?
I call it poverty mindset, but yes.
Yeah. So like, but if a leader made a mistake, right? In your question, how
Yep.
did you say it? How did you say it?
The question.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I said basically like where's the line where mindset is no longer the issue and it's actually a skill gap or leadership failure.
Okay, leadership failure. So if the leader were to fail in some way, that is, we're looking at their behavior, the actions that they took in a certain situation. Yes.
Yep.
The action is an expression of their internal state of being, which is mindset. So if I see a sales rep, for example, who's just not cutting it, they're not getting the results, they're not getting the progress, and it's a leadership failure for not raising their standard and just bringing them along, or like slowly bring, or like evading and avoiding, like whatever it is that led to them not becoming successful, that leadership failure is because the mindset of the leader is of a certain way, like, oh, they're not going to make it, or like I have other important things to do, or I'm too busy, or whatever it might be. So the leadership failure is because of the mindset of the leader, and a skill gap is because of the mindset of the person. They're not believing how important training could be, or learning more, or in continuing to network and connect with other people to role play. And that mindset of not having belief in that practice of role play or drills or training or whatever is why there's a skill gap. So
Yeah, no, and I agree with you. I want to ask this question because I think it's really the importance of actual mindset. Ultimately, that's what it starts is essentially your personal imagination and really being able to invest in yourself. And what I mean by poverty mindset isn't necessarily just like money. It's the actual thought of, oh, I'm not able to accomplish something. I have limiting factors of my situation that are really holding me back. That's what I really believe poverty mindset is. And so, at least for me, when I hear this question, I always refer to people that have the poverty mindset.
yeah, yeah, like looking at the lack that they might have, whether it's money or resources. So, like in terms of leadership failure, like, oh, if I only had a larger team, I could recruit more, right? Like, and you're thinking, oh, you could recruit more if you had that resource. Well, you're the creator of the resources, right? The resources are abundant. So, thinking if I only had puts you into a state of lack and causes you to act out in failure, not doing enough recruiting or sharing the opportunity, right?
Yep.
And you're putting an external blame on something that's completely in your control because of the thinking that you're operating out of.
Yeah, and I'm a believer like no matter what level you're at, because we're always having to expand our skill sets, mindset, whatever. Like we're always gonna have the next level of poverty mindset that we have to overcome. At least that's like my personal belief of like no matter what level you're at, you still got to bring it, and then there's gonna be some limiting factor that you're gonna still have to cross that mountain.
Absolutely. You're like Bob Proctor would always say it kind of this way. Everything's energy, and therefore everything has a frequency. And you can actually tell this, right? We talked about knocking a door with despair versus knocking a door with conviction. When a person's confident and convicted, like what's their body language?
Uh, Moping, weeping, just
Okay.
like
Sorry. When they're
oh.
confident and convicted, how do you know?
Oh, they're ready to go. They're bringing it. You feel it.
Their eyes are bright, their shoulders are back, they take up space, right? Like you can tell there's confidence coming versus a person who's scarcity, who's scared, who's worried, who's doubtful. Like what does that look like?
Slouched, maybe just like, kind of like shouldering themselves away. Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe
So you can
yeah.
see it, right? So everything's energy, everything has a frequency. And what Bob would realize, what Bob taught was, as I studied under him, is like, okay, you're basically growing at frequency. So you get to a level of vibration where most of the time you're operating out of this vibration. When you hit that level, you realize there's another frequency above it. There's another frequency above it. There's another frequency above it. And that's why I meant the one of the largest killers for freedom created from sales, and really the experience of the sales profession, is thinking you've made it, is reaching a point where like you're done, you don't have to do anymore, like you can just like bask in the work of everyone else and this organization that you've created. Like that one thought of thinking I've arrived and I'm done growing is the thing that will kill any organization you've built and your own career faster than anything else.
Yeah, basically you're talking about hubris, which is the reason why a lot of nations ultimately falls because like they think they've made it, they have the control, like nothing can take them over. So,
Instead of
anyway, so you, oh, go ahead.
I said instead of continuing to grow, yes, 100%.
Yep. So I would say you brought up a really good point that I want to brush over real quick. So if you're building a team from zero, how do you install belief and certainty in people who don't necessarily have the results or have seen the results?
So building from zero, how do you get your people, maybe even they're with results or don't have the results, but how do you get them to start producing like they have the results even before them?
Yes.
I would say empowering leadership. Like if you could
Okay.
reduce it to two words, it would be empowering leadership. And and what I mean is like in my experience, what I've learned, kind of what I've observed is there's really four ways a leader can operate with his people or her people. They can push, evade, enable, or empower. And the empowering style of leadership is the one that's going to pull the greatness within everyone. Because I do believe like everyone has that greatness. It's whether they're willing and able and committed to bring that out, and the leader is a big part on whether or not that potential they have within them comes to the surface. A lot of leaders, they push and they push and they push and they push and they push. That usually doesn't develop, cause that spark to come out. Usually doesn't develop, and in fact, pushing usually creates resentment, kind of thing, or like resistance, I would actually say. So if someone's getting pushed all the time by their leader, like eventually you're gonna push back. You're like, I don't need you. Like, stop it. Like, I'm gonna go over here. Like, get out of my life, kind of thing, right? Versus evading. If you are constantly avoiding serving your people, oh, I'm too busy. I've got all this and all this stuff going on, and like you don't respond, and you're not active with your people. Like that's going to cultivate resentment. Your people are going to be like, why am I even helping this guy? Right? Like, why am I working with them? That's resentment. And then enabling, and this was the mistake I made most of my career. Enabling was solving your people's problems for them. Oh, it's been 3 weeks since you got a deal. Come with me. I'll get you a deal. And knock the door. They, as long as their knuckles hit it, like they start the conversation, I'd save it. I'd get the deal for them. I'd split it 50-50. I'd give them another couple grand off of the work that I pretty, and that floated them, and they stayed along for a little while longer, but that was enabling leadership, and they still had the same problem. They hadn't grown themselves. So empowering leadership is the key to building an organization that continues to build itself. Is that style of leadership where you're not solving their problems for them, you're helping them find their own solutions.
Yeah, and I'm gonna break that down a little bit. So what I've kind of seen is like ultimately when you're starting in a position with few people, or maybe it's even just yourself, you have a ton of different hats. And what I mean by hats is the actual like responsibilities, and you're having to wear a lot of them. Well, ultimately in a sales opportunity, it's selling, training, and recruiting. That is the three ways you're going to be able to maximize your time, and understanding that you should be asking questions to the different people that you're around. You could ask them like, "Hey, what are your dreams, goals, aspirations?" Oh, one guy, he's the type that always plays music. So before the team meeting, I want you to get the room ready. I want you to play some music, just so it's upbeat. People
Set
feel
that
good. It's a
vibe.
good environment. Yeah. and
Yeah.
and there's different hats that other people could wear. Some could be kind of the rabbit, where they're out in the field, the trenches, day in and day out, really showing and leading the way. And that's the person that everyone wants to aspire to be like. And I think really utilizing that and then instilling like what they want to do, you try to utilize their strengths to get them to go to the next level, and then they buy into their roles.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say like if I'm gonna be free, I gotta be me. But for me to be free, I actually the price for my freedom is to give other people the right to be their freedom, right? Like to live freely themselves. And I think a lot of leaders struggle because they try to force each individual person into a certain way. Like this is the way we do it, rather than allowing that person to do it their way, but like with guidance, with support, with adaptation, with feedback loops that get them better and better. But like to your point, if I'm someone who is much more technical savvy, right? Like then my way of selling might be completely different. I might create like an AI engine that DMs people on Instagram and like starts recruiting like crazy or creates leads that we can then go close with whatever product I have, right? Like I might be way better at that than knocking the door and creating a relationship out of nowhere, you know? So if I'm a leader, I love what you said, Naeem, like uncover your people's strengths, figure them out, and empowering leadership is saying like go ride your strength. Don't try to fix this weakness. Like I want to spend as much time in my strength as possible. And to do that, I'm going to find people to fill my weaknesses. I'm not tech savvy. Like my website was not built by me. It's like, let's get someone else to do that. My video editing is not done by me. It's like we want someone else because it took me 4 hours to make a video that sucked, you know?
And what you're hitting on is what I would say who, not how. I think
Yeah.
it's in chapter 3. He really talks about like the most successful and fulfilled people are the ones spending time doing not what they hate ultimately. So you're able to find the people that do love that job, and then it's their responsibility to go run with it and go take it to the next level because
Yep.
they'll show up and do it repeatedly, and they want to.
Absolutely.
So I think the last question to wrap this up. Obviously, now you're a business owner. You were a former athlete. You sold a ton of accounts in your career. You've been very successful. You even went to medical school. You've transitioned now to be a business owner ultimately. So for someone that's listening right now, like if they want to go from being a top producer to like a true leader or owner, what is the first internal shift that they really need to make?
And is this just anybody? Like anybody who's
Yeah,
in sales wants to
I
be,
yep.
yeah.
So let's say they're on the football team, for example, and now they want to transition to being a leader and being a captain. They're a top sales producer in a company and they want to go to leadership. Or this person has an organization, they've been absolutely crushing with people, and now they're trying to step into something like an ownership path. Like,
Okay.
what are some of the internal shifts that they really need to make?
That's a really good question. And there's probably, a handful. But let me ask you this. How would you rank, Naeem, the value of these things? Like money, time, and attention. Like how would you rank those in order of most valuable to least? Money, time, and attention.
I would say, well, describe all three, and then I can give you my answer. I'm gonna ask a question off the question off the question.
Let's go. Socratic method here. So, okay, money, right? The exchange of, just in terms of most people's mindset around money, is the exchange of something for a good or a service, right? That's
Okay.
that's our money.
Yep.
Time is the passing of moment. Okay, so time is the passing of moment and how it's invested or spent. And then attention is where your focus is.
Okay.
How would you rank
Um.
the
I,
value of those things?
so I think time is the most precious asset ultimately.
Okay.
I think that really that in my opinion, if I got to go down this, I would say it's time, attention, then money.
Okay. And I'm not going to say wrong or right, but as you asked me the question, one of the shifts that's going to figure people into a more ownership type mentality is going, most people, actually, let me say it this way. Most people got to get off the money being the valuable thing. I think if you were to ask this to a normal rep audience, right? Like they just got into the sales, they're in sales the first couple of years, they're going to rank value and money much higher than time. Even if they consciously say time is more valuable, you can see in their actions that it's not because they chase appointments. They'll go to one that didn't confirm, that didn't commit. They'll take an appointment at the craziest hours of days rather than holding their own time. You see what I'm saying? So the first shift for most sales reps and stuff like that, athletes, whatever, is to get to realize that the time is truly more valuable than the money. And then if you're going to go full ownership, I would actually say attention is more valuable than time. And I'll share this. If you observe the actions of poor people, like Robert Kiyosaki, like if you're looking at like I can tell he's going to be poor, whatever you read, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Poor people use their money. Sorry, poor people give away their attention. Think about it. Poor people give their attention away carelessly. Therefore, they have limited time, so they trade their time for money.
Yep.
That is the life of a poor person. Yes?
Yep.
A wealthy person values the attention the most. They'll use their money in order to buy time so that they can put their attention where they most want it.
Yeah, I agree with you. Actually, attention is number one because ultimately, even in sales, though, we always do trade our time for money. It's just ultimately our time isn't capped, or our money isn't capped by that specific time.
Yeah.
So that's why actually I do agree with you. Attention definitely is number one, time two, money three, at least for me, just because that attention to detail being in whatever you're focusing on is going to have the most bang for buck ROI in regards to leading to what your actual vision is.
Well, and what you brought up before too, Naeem, like who, not how, right? Okay, I can go figure out this tech issue and I can give my attention to that. But that's going to take a huge drain on time and limit the amount of money I can receive in return, right? And that came from giving my attention to something that I have a weakness in, rather than, as you brought up, finding the who that I can use. I can say, hey, you give your attention to that, so my attention goes to what I'm best at, and my time goes to what I'm best at, and therefore the money flows from what I'm best at. Like, if it, you said it early in the previous answer, like attention has to be the most valuable thing, and also the whole
Yep.
cheesy thing, like where focus goes, energy flows. It's everything's energy. Well, that focus is your attention, so spend it wisely, right?
Way to go, man. Thank you really for just hopping on, and big thing, obviously you're running your own thing with MindRx Academy. So first, we will have a referral link code in there. What's really cool with this code is it's going to give you direct access to Zach being a part of MindRx Academy, and that's a lifetime coaching aspect there. And then you'll have the capabilities to have a one-on-one with him to be able to create the battle plan moving forward. And obviously, if you have other ways that people can connect with you, Zach, floor is yours.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate that, Naeem. Instagram, I manage that personally. Social media, we're on all the things. It's at MindRx Academy, MindRx Academy. My mission, really, in terms of sales, is to change the way that people perceive salespeople by changing the way that salespeople perceive themselves. I want to heal, strengthen, and expand the minds of those who create and drive the economy. That is the salesperson. And so MindRx Academy is a one-time thing. It's lifetime access. But off of your link, they'll get a one-to-one call with myself, and that can be like goal orientation. It can be like a mindset shift on any one of those belief systems, whatever is going to drive the needle for you the furthest. And you've gifted them that. So I appreciate you, being the type of leader that you are, putting this type of value out there and striving to make the sales world and performance world a better place. So thank you for all you do.
Yeah, that'll be down in the description. So feel free to check it out and go take advantage of that, guys. So anyway, this wraps up the show, and until next time.